What's up, bikers? Episode 165 of the B1KER Bar Podcast. I'm dropping live stream. That's it. I'm really going to do it this time. I say this every week, but this is the time. It's not going to happen anymore. This will be officially the last time I say B1KER Bar Podcast live stream. Hopefully. Anyways, episode 165 today we have on Good Day Optics. Pretty cool story, man. We'll get into that. Long story short, it's a sunglasses brand or a optics brand. So we'll find out what that means and how that came about in just a few minutes. But first, I want to thank everybody that's out there on Patreon. You guys are rock stars. Thank you very much. This is grassroots, man. At the end of the day, you tip your waitress for bringing you food. Why not tip your podcaster for bringing you podcasting entertainment every week for weeks on end? Swing by Patreon, man. Just drop $5 in there. It's once a month. You're buying me a beer. You're helping out. Things are going good. I'd really enjoy it. So it keeps me motivated. Honestly, every time I've ever thought about stopping YouTube, the one thing that keeps me going is the people on Patreon. So there you have it. If you want to do something for free, swing by Facebook, give me a follow, or Instagram if you do that. If you're under 40, do that on Instagram. And those of you that haven't subscribed to the channel, if you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe. You know what that. You know the deal here. We don't have to say these things all the time. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and bring Jared back on, and we'll get started. How's it going, Jared?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, for sure, dude. I'm stoked to have a conversation. Honestly, it's every time that like I set one of these up, I mean, you always have the unknown, right? Unless it's somebody I've talked to before. But every time I finish one of these conversations, it's always like, man, that was fun. I learned something, or it was just like another cool person that's into bikes. Yeah. So it always makes things go easy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I find the mountain bike community, because I haven't been like a hardcore mountain biker because I came from skiing. It's like the tightest knit community that you don't know exists until you come into it.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that. So what kind of skiing were you into?
All mountain skiing, a lot of not freestyle, but big mountain and stuff like that. So lots of powder, lots of cliffs. It was always just a lot. It was more comfortable to fall on skis than a mountain bike. So that's why I stayed away from mountain biking.
How'd you get into mountain biking then?
So my mom, just kind of, it's a natural progression, I think. Like all skiers go mountain biking and mountain bikers really go skiing in the winter and vice versa. And then when my mom passed, I just had a little bit of disposable income. So I'm like, I'm going to buy a bike and try this out. And then, now I do like 50 to 100 kilometers on a mountain bike a week when we didn't.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Where do you live at?
I'm up in Edmonton, Alberta. So just above Montana.
Oh, okay. So that's why we're talking kilometers.
Yeah.
I'm trying to like real quick. I'm like, what is 100 kilometers? I have no fucking idea. So 62 miles a week, something like that. So 30 to 60 miles a week is what he's saying. Right. Yeah. I really, truly, honestly wish that America would just go to the fucking metric system already. Like it's so annoying.
Well, and what's weird is like we do half and half, because it's like, we're technically supposed to use like kilograms and grams for our weight, but we all talk pounds and feet and inches. But then like when it comes to a distance, it's like meters and kilometers. So it's like a weird hybrid up here.
I honestly didn't realize how much I hated. I think it's called the imperial system. I didn't realize how much I hated that until I got into 3D printing. And so like when you're like designing things, you're measuring things a lot, and millimeters is so fucking easy compared to like how many, is that an 8? Is that a 16? Wait, is that a 30? I can't freaking tell anymore. It's so annoying. So anyways, so that's the rant right there. Yeah, man. I originally started out as one of those people that skied in the wintertime and mountain biked in the summertime, because I grew up back east in Pennsylvania, and that's kind of what the weather dictated,
Yeah.
But now I live in Northern California, and it's harder for me to ski because I can mountain bike all year.
Yeah, I would agree. If I could mountain bike all year, I think I would do it because
Yeah.
like especially in Edmonton, we have like 400 kilometers of single track trail that I can
Mhm.
access from my house, where
Yeah.
I have to drive to the mountains, which is 4 hours away.
Right. And skiing hasn't really like, I don't know if it doesn't feel like it was this expensive before. Like, where the lift tickets are compared to like a price of skis compared to like a day. It's just like, it's ridiculous. I remember I used to live in Europe, and when I first moved back to the States, to California, I went to the resort, and it was like $40 for a lift ticket. And I was like so bent out of shape. I was like, this is bullshit. It was only like $35 for me to ski the Alps, and I'm here in this bullshit little ass freaking mountain, and you're charging me 40. I was like losing my mind about it. And now here we are, almost $200 lift ticket. Well, some places are $200 lift
Yeah,
ticket.
Whistler just announced 300 Canadian, which is 220 American.
Yeah. At least Whistler is huge. You know what I mean? Like, where you feel like, okay, maybe that's worth it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, you get two mountains, and they have this like giant gondola that spans the crevasse to it that you can just like take across, which is pretty neat.
That's awesome. I used to have a poster of the like trail map for Whistler on my wall, like kind of in my garage, where I'd be like, someday I'm going to go there. And I never thought that it would turn into like, someday I'm going to go there, but now I'm stoked about mountain biking instead.
Yeah, yeah, I want to go mountain biking there, or at least see Crankworks. I think that'd be super cool.
Yeah. No, that'd be a good time. So you mentioned earlier that your mom passed away, and first of all, my condolences to you. But I think that's also a big reason of why you started Good Optics, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. That's how I started Good Day. Because when you watch your mom at 61 pass away in 17 days from at perfectly healthy, it's kind of your worst days. So
Yeah, that's I mean, I obviously you didn't go into a lot of detail on your website. That's a really short amount of time, man. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
yeah, but then when I kind of looked back on it, um, or maybe it's my mentality of how I looked at it. Like my mom had a great life. She loved me and my sister. She loved my family. Even if she knew when her end date was, I don't think she'd change it, and or like change anything of her life because like had got to do everything she wanted to do. And then with myself, when I looked back with spending the 17 days in the hospital with my family, um, there was some good in it. Like I'm closer with my family than I've ever been, closer with my
Mhm.
wife than I've ever been. It showed me that life can be very short, so you need to make sure you enjoy every day. And yeah, and then it sparked Good Day Optics out of it, and now I get to go mountain biking and skiing, and get to meet some really rad people, and um, just have good days.
Yeah. I mean, and at any point, if I ask something you're feeling like that's like too much, let me know. Um, like, how did that come about? I mean, you're just like, everything's cool one day, and all of a sudden you're in the hospital like for the next 2 weeks, or
Yeah. So my mom passed away July 13th, and it's I'm trying to build a day out of it where it's like International Day of Hardship, and it's like where we share the hard stories. So it's like that was the date of it, and then like about a month before, so she was at my house, or my mom and stepdad were at my house. We were like cleaning up the backyard, pruning trees, everything. She was a little tired from that and complained about a back injury, which she thought was at the gym. Next
Mhm.
week, she's talking to her doctor about her stomach filling up with fluids, and then so that was on Friday. Sunday into the hospital, or well, sorry, tried to go into the hospital Saturday. They denied her. Sunday called ambulance because it wasn't like going away. So then she got rushed there, and then yeah, 17 days later,
Oh
gone.
my god, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's I've had somebody. My uncle was like kind of like my big brother or father figure all my life, and when I was like 16, he got murdered, and it's really hard to deal with something where, I mean, your mom was still at an age where you were taking her life for granted. You know what I mean? Just like
Mhm.
I was with him. Like we were young. I was like 16 and he was like 21, you know, and it's definitely just like you said a few minutes ago, it taught me a lot of things that really, it's hard to look back and be like, yeah, that's positive. You know what I mean? Because it's like fucked up, but
Yeah.
it's like, okay, like at least I can look at things and walk away with some kind of positivity from it. And there were a lot of lessons that I learned that, you know, I still carry today from that. So
Yeah.
yeah. That's so on the website, it said that you were building her little origami elephants. How did that come to be?
Yeah. So when I was sitting in the hospital, my mom, like, because this was her third time with a different cancer and like completely random cancers. So that's always a fun time to see. But she was like, I don't think I can get through this cancer. Like it feels way worse.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, well, mom, like, when you're fighting anything, mindset matters so much.
Yeah.
So I'm like, mom, some days are going to be bad. Some days are going to be good. We take it one day at a time. And then she joked to me, she's like, well, how do you eat an elephant? And I'm like, I don't know how. And it's, one bite at a time. So then
Yeah.
with my ADHD and, get it like jumping all into stuff all the time. And then I'm like, I'm going to make origami elephants. And, bring in words of positive motivation and stuff like that. And that's actually what you can see. These are all some of the elephants that I like put up just to remember. But yeah, on the back, it's like, today is going to be a good day. I am capable of hard things. Fear is only a feeling. It can't hold me back. And then like, I got this. I will fight. Stuff like that. So it was just like, making her something every day that, maybe could change the tide like 1% or something. And I joked to her, I'm like, I'm going to make 8,880 or like 88,888 elephants or something along those numbers. And I'm like, one for every day that you're going to live from this day forward.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, unfortunately didn't get to make that many, but yeah.
I'm sure it was just as therapeutic for you as it was for her.
Yeah, it was something to focus on outside
Yeah.
of being in a hospital, and especially because it was 2022. So up here, our hospitals were still very much um, like only like two family members, or well, it was like one family member at it, like supposed to be only visiting
Uh-huh.
in a room, and then our family was able to get two, and then they kept adding a few more as the weeks got on, but it was very like, we couldn't all be in the same spot at once. So it was like hanging out in the hospital in like the cafeteria or hanging
Yeah.
out in like a sitting area while another family member went up to chat with her.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, at least you were in a position that you were able to be with her in some capacity. I know, like, just like maybe a year prior to that, like there was people that couldn't even be there. I can't even imagine like losing a family member and not being able to like be by their side, you know?
Yeah. Well, and for the family members, like who are in the hospital, like, you're having something traumatic happen to you, and the only people who are giving, now nurses are great, but you'll probably have a couple doctors who are
Yeah.
no bedside manner and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and it's like those would not be the people I'd want to spend my last moments with.
Yeah. 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 That's, it's definitely a surreal type of experience to be part of. I am, man, this is a deep ass podcast we're getting into about freaking optics.
Yeah.
What's the optics of this conversation? No, but like I had my best friend since growing up. We were friends ever since second grade. He passed away this last year out of kind of like a freak thing happened with his heart, and we all flew back there. It was me and some of his college buddies and his sister that were there on his bedside, and it was definitely like, I remember thinking to myself, like, this feels like a movie right now. Like, this is like not it's just so weird, to like be in that experience where you're like you're almost like want to pinch yourself, like, is this really like my life right now? you
Yeah.
know
Well, and what I found weird was after she passed and then going home, it's like, so at the time, like it happened in Calgary because that's where I'm from. But Calgary Stampede was going on, and it's like a million people event. So Calgary was
Mhm.
just like bumping, and it's just
Mhm.
weird to like, you're in a car, like super, like my world just ended, like changed
Right.
dramatically, and people are just going on with their normal day to day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. My wife watches all these like almost every other lady that it seems like they it seems like it's like a thing that they all like watching these murder shows, And every time I watch those, I always like they're like in 1997 in September they were like, and I'm always thinking to myself, what was I doing right then? Like this family's going through this like craziness, just like what you were saying. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So how are you sitting on the bedside of your mother making origami elephants and then decide like optics is what you want to like get into? How did that tie together?
Yeah, so it was about a 2 week window from when I launched the idea of the company. So Mum gone July 13th, brand started August 1st. But where it came from was I was like, well, I want to build a brand that can encompass, helping people have good days and more of them. So that's
Hmm.
where the name came from. And then how I got into optics was I've been in the manufacturing space for about 8 years, making ski jackets, ski pants, base layers, socks, mitts, basically every item of apparel. And then I was playing around with goggles and then looking at the space, probably a little naive. I'm like, oh, there's not that many small goggle brands. And,
Hmm.
maybe I should have looked into that a little deeper to see that, it's the optic space is owned by Luxottica and 80% of it. So
Uh-huh.
that might, it's like you have to grind for and build your base to get there. But yeah, that's where I was like, okay, I'll make ski goggles and, um, in the, or to do that. And then so I'm like, well, like that's very seasonal. What am I going to do in the summer? And I'm like, well, sunglasses are kind of like the goggles of the winter. And my mom always had a pair on. So,
Hmm.
let's play with sunglasses in the summer and play with goggles in the winter.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So how do you well, I guess you had the experience with like the winter gear, so for you to step into goggles, it wasn't like a stretch?
No, because I was already playing with them. Like I had prototyped a few different ones to see about making them for other people already, just not as a optics brand. And then I was
Hmm.
like, well, I'm gonna just focus on one thing and do it really well because when you're making jackets, pants, gloves for a whole bunch of people, it's like you can't really do one thing amazingly great. So I'm like one
Hmm.
item per season kind of thing, maybe two.
Hmm.
Um, because like yeah, I do have mountain bike goggles that are
Yeah, yeah,
really
yeah.
much.
Yeah, and we can get to that for sure. So, what was the process then? Were you working for another firm at the time? Were you like kind of freelance kind of guy, or?
So everything manufacturing was side hustles of mine.
Hmm.
Because how I got into that space was I built one of the largest campus ski clubs in the world. We were 2,400 people in a campus of 11,000. So
Hmm.
then that put me on track of building an organization called NASIC, which was the North American Association of Ski and Snowboard Clubs. So then where the manufacturing was coming in was making other things for ski clubs because I'm like, well, why are we buying other people's brands and all this when a ski club comes to a brand and we're like, hey, we need like 10 20 jackets, and they're like,
Hmm.
oh, it's not that important to us because we're talking like 500 orders. I'm like, well, we can start manufacturing this stuff ourselves.
Hmm.
So that's where I was making a lot of the stuff. And then yeah, then I'm like, it's too much to do all this stuff, and I'm going to focus on and narrow it back and focus on just a couple of things because
Hmm.
uh, it was a lot to launch 3 things all at once.
Hmm. So, how did you? So, you didn't have any schooling in this? It was just like something you were like, "This is what I want to do," or?
Yeah, I just kept playing and just kept trying and doing different things. Like my background is in my one degree is in materials engineering, so I did get to see like different coatings and um, playing with different materials in that regard. But up in
Hmm.
Alberta, we're a very um, oil and gas heavy market. So a lot of our materials engineering is for like corrosion and mining and segregation. So it's like watching a lot of pipes rust and a lot of rocks mix around and settle, rather than like the cool stuff that they do in like other schools for material, or other provinces and country or states, where they look at like Gore-Tex and, you know, building those kind of materials.
Got it. So did you have an idea of where to start from manufacturing, or you're just like hit up Google and you're like, I want to make a jacket?
Yeah, just start talking to factories and figuring it out. And, you know, as you go, like, you know, I think my first contacts with factories were like, you know, third party wholesalers or whichever, who could make them for you, because that's the people who are like going out. It's not the factories. So then, you know, once you continue to build relationships and figure out how that all works, then you get to talk to like actual factories and employees, rather than like a middle person.
And that's the thing, what I'm trying to understand is like, how do you do that? Like for me, I had some stuff made, but I like went to Alibaba and like found a company on there. It seemed like it had some good reviews, and it seemed like I was dealing strictly with the factory, but I don't know, you know?
Yeah, it usually seems like, because I've had friends who play with it and, you know, do that regard. It usually seems like you're talking to the factory, but it's usually like someone who's a little separate, and that regard. But as it comes, it's like, you know, you go and visit, you go have, or you find someone who lives over there and does all the dirt digging for you and figuring it out and figuring out who to talk to and that. And, you know, it wasn't like this was a day one project. It's like I already had people with like an 8-year relationship in some cases.
Yeah, because you've been doing this for a while with the school school team. So then how do you go from not having a product at all to, like, you had some prototypes you did for some other people? Like, what was it that you took into consideration in building that first set of goggles?
Yeah, so I had some ideas of what I wanted. Like, you know, I want it to breathe really well. Want to use better clarity coatings and stuff, because, you know, our eyes naturally blend blue and greens together. Whereas, like, you know, you can put coatings on that to spread out the waves, so then you can see it crisper. And then had an idea of shapes, and then talking with the factories, like, because, like, you know, I'm not an expert in designing a sunglass, and I'm not an expert in designing a goggle. I know what I want and that, but it's also listening to the factories who have been doing it for 20 plus years, and like, you know, we've tried it this way, done it this way, and then, you know, which way, or they'll be like, oh, we didn't try it like this, let's go down that path. So it was a lot of collaboration when we were building everything.
And then through that process, like, do you have to buy like 1,000 or like 10,000? Like, how many do you have to buy to get started?
Yeah, it's 1,000 and up. And then it's figuring out ways to, you know, you can make things modular, you can share parts, you can do this and that, to then hopefully better utilize your high MOQs. But that's, you know, what I would say for anyone who wants to start something or build something. Don't find the factories or whichever who will be like, yeah, I'll do it on a minimum order quantity of 1 or 10, because those are the small factories that, you know, are trying to get into the space. Quality control isn't there. You might, you know, you order an extra large and it comes out to be an extra small, or vice versa. But it's like, you know, figure out the ways of, you know, the companies that have a minimum order quantity of thousands to 10,000 to even bigger than that. If, you know, you have a market for it already, but it's like, or if the price is right for widgets of like 10,000 units, for how you're going to evaluate pricing and everything. But then talk down, be like, okay, you know, you guys normally take a 10,000 order quantity. How about we have a conversation of like, let's test it out and do this. Maybe will you let us do like a couple thousand? And then, but we're going to build the relationship. So then, like, you know, the next order, you know, we're coming back for that 10,000. We just need to make sure it fits with our customer base.
Yeah, I had some like different merch pieces made for the channel, and I definitely was looking for the low MOQ guys. And I think on one of them, I got lucky with the company that I ended up with, and then another one, it was definitely quite the experience that I learned a lot of things from.
Yeah.
And it's there's a lot. The one thing that I really learned in that those couple of products that I made was don't take anything for granted. So like in my mind where I'm like, yeah, just make this the right size, like obviously they know what this thing is. Like if you don't say exactly what you want, you will definitely not get that.
Well, and yeah, if you just say sizing of like extra large, well, extra large is vastly different in Asia than it is North America. So it's like you need to like measure every piece and be like, I need it to be like 100 inches here, 75 inches here,
Yeah.
zippers, like whatever. Because if not, they're just will grab anything and make it work for them rather than you.
Yeah, I had one that I made this like this bottle opener. I don't even have one right here in front of me, but anyway, so this like steel bottle opener is like the shape of a credit card, but it's like also looks like a beer can. And one of the designs, like I sent them, then we were changing things, and somewhere along the line, the design got like cockeyed by like a couple of degrees. Just like I went in, changed something, and maybe like in Illustrator just like moved my mouse as I was hitting save and like just like kicked it over or something. And it was one of those things where whenever I got the product and it was like that, it's like on one hand you're like, well, that's what I sent him, and on the other hand you're like they didn't put that into the program and be like, that's crooked. They're just like, yeah, this is what he sent us, like,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was a lesson I learned. I'm like, and we're buying these again. And now I have a bunch of freebies that are just a little off. So somebody out there's probably a couple hundred people that have that bottle opener that's now they're looking, did I get the fucked up one? Or did
Well, and no one else will probably ever notice until you point it out.
Yeah.
But it's like always in your mind, and you're like, oh, that's the cockeyed one, but
Yeah.
never tell the person. Otherwise, it's like, then they notice.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing is like, I think I'm ADHD as well as you, and I think I like hyper focus on a lot of things that most people just don't even notice. Where I'm like, you can't tell that black is not the same color as that black. This thing, like, this is really bothering the hell out of me. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, that's all I see. So yeah. So how does that go from? So I'm assuming that process takes a few months to kind of work out like what you're going to make or whatever, and then you put this order in and you're waiting for it to show up. In the meantime, you're like just figuring you're going to do this all like e-commerce or what?
Yeah, predominantly e-commerce and everything. And then that was kind of my bad mistake when I launched. Is it's August. I'm like, I'm gonna do sunglasses. So prototyping sunglasses. I'm like, wait a second. As I get samples sent to me and everything, it's like September already. So there's no point in making sunglasses just to sit on all winter. So I'm like, quickly pivot to goggles. And I was playing a little bit, but it was like, okay, speed it up and get this going. And then product arrived December. Then started selling January. But all e-commerce direct to consumer, because it allows me to control as a small brand how it gets interacted with the customers, how they get treated, how they get everything, how the warranty claims work and everything. And then as we grow, like we do a lot of pop-up events. So we'll go mountain bike events here locally and in Revelstoke and Fernie and Kelowna. And then what I want to build is like a mobile store. So then it'll be like food truck, but retail. And then just like drive it to all the events and everything.
Yeah. I've seen some other brands and things do that at some different mountain bike stuff where they just basically build out a sprinter and it's like a retail space and a sprinter, so this is not bad. So
yeah.
I
think my dream setup would be like a 30-foot RV with like a then like a double axle trailer enclosed. That's big enough to fit. So I like to build weird cars. So I'm building up a 1999 Honda CRV. We lifted it, put a turbo kit on it, and then I'm like, this would be fun to like put it in the back, fully wrapped. And then when we go drive the motorhome down to wherever, drop off the trailer, pull out the little CRV, take those back to the campsite or wherever we go, and then just putt around in the fully branded, weird looking CRV.
Yeah. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
So before I get sidetracked on the CRV,
Yeah.
So how did you launch? Like what was your strategy?
Yeah. So I originally was like, oh, I'm gonna make a pair of sunglasses or goggles, and I'll just price it at this. And then I'm like, and then I was watching some podcasts and like listening to more entrepreneurs when I launched, and they're like, the riches are in the riches are in the niches. So it's like niche yourself out, figure out one problem and solve it really good. Don't try to do everything for everyone. So then I'm like, actually, I'm going to be the sunglass or goggle company that replaces scratch lenses, breaking them by yourself. So like if we crash into a tree or anything like that, or drive over them, and if you lose them. So if we have too many après drinks or anything after, and you forget your pair of sunglasses, well, I'm going to be the brand that replaces it. And then that, has allowed me to grow semi fast. When people hear like our warranty and everything, they're like, well, why would I, when I'm ready to buy, why would I go anywhere else?
So what was your launch strategy then? So you just decide like, I've been in tech for a long time, and a lot of people think, yeah, you just make a website and then people come there, and that doesn't work that way. So what was your plan?
Yeah. So my plan always has been very community focused. So it's like, like day one was building a Instagram account before we even had a website. So then we can start talking to people and finding the people. And because it is a slow train to convince anyone to do something different, it's like you should be talking. And like that's the thing is like, we have blog posts, we show behind the scenes and show the journey and the story, because like that's how you get people to join your community and everything. So like focus way before. So yeah, that was our mission, is it's like, build the community, engage with people, comment on their stuff, just be friends in the optic space. And probably not anyone on this channel, but anyone who follows us, I'll try and send them a message and have a one-on-one conversation. And most people are shocked by that, because they're like, why is a brand talking to me? And it's like, well, why a brand should talk to you? Like, it's, yeah, I can build something cool, but it's, your community that brings it up. So it's like, it's not anything I build, it's what my community builds that makes it special. So that's where the focus should be on, is like, engaging with the consumers, building stuff really cool that make them want to stay. Because when I first launched, I was like, oh, I'm going to be the only pair of sunglasses that someone buys once and never again, because like I cover everything else. And it's like, well, no, but when I don't nickel and dime my customers over, like, if they scratch their lens on day one or lost their sunglasses on day 5, they come back for the second pair, they come back for the other goggles. And because we build some really cool limited edition apparel with different artists and everything, they're spending $100 to $300 on t-shirts and hoodies as a lifestyle brand.
Do you think the level of communication is sustainable as you grow?
I think so. Like the brand I look at so much is Liquid Death. The water company is like, they signed an 82-year-old grandma as their spokeswoman. It's like she's a big drummer and everything, and it's like, doing weird or different stuff that engages with your community goes way further. Like they're the fastest consumer growing brand in the last 3 years, I think, down there. So it's like, when you don't focus on like little tiny things and just go and like engage with people and, build stuff that, maybe you spent $150,000 on an event, and, you'll never get $150,000 of sales in that thing. You can't measure it, but it's like by doing those things, it comes in different ways that is unmeasurable.
Yeah, definitely. I think that your warranty is amazing, and that with that, obviously you have to like kind of like put into your cost that kind of projected like what percentage of these type of scenarios that you'll have to support. So that in turn like makes your price high. And how do you like how do you combat like somebody just coming to your website and looking at the price and thinking, oh wow, that's super high? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So try to communicate what we're all about. I won't convince everyone.
Yeah.
And that's totally okay. We're a 1-year-old brand. I can't be everything for everyone. I'm a brand right now for the person who hates doing all that stuff. And it's similar to like the Tesla model is, they started with a 250K electric sports car. They weren't a car for everyone. Then they slowly went down, made a 100K car, and then slowly went down as they grow. And that's the game set for Good Day. Like I know I'm a high priced item, but comparatively, I'm in the same price point of a little bit higher than Smith and Oakley.
Yeah.
And
I think for me, when I first went to this site, I did just like somebody did in the comments, like, holy crap, that's expensive. But once I looked at the warranty, then it was like, oh, well, but wait a minute. Like, this is, like you said earlier, like, I'm like, okay, so how's he doing this? Now you're like, I buy this one pair of sunglasses, I'm set for the rest of my life as long as I like that style. You know what I mean? So in that aspect, it's like, oh, well, I mean, that's not a high price. Like, even if you did it once, like Callie's helmets are kind of back behind me there, and they have a 100% crash replacement. Like, you pay shipping and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that makes it worth it, like, over any other helmet that's the same price, or if they are more expensive, because it's like nobody else is doing that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, dude, you crash your helmet, you get another one for free for like shipping, which is like $20. Like nobody does that. If anybody does, it's like 50%, maybe. You know what I mean? So I mean, to me, I get it, but it's definitely one of those things where that's like a something you have to be able to communicate with your customers, like, well, you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. And I know I'll get people who click off it and stuff like that. It's like trying to figure out how to learn and grow and get them to stay. And as we go, we'll continue it. But it's like, at the start, I could have cut the tech, cut the warranty, and been a much cheaper pair of sunglasses. But then
what makes you stand out?
Yeah, what makes me stand out? And when you're building something at the start, finding a customer is the hardest thing to do. So I could find one customer at $400, or I could find 10 customers at $40, and it's the same amount. It's the same amount of difficulty, because now at $40, I have nothing to stand out for. I have nothing to do this. So then it's harder to build that message that resonates with someone exactly.
Yeah, 100%. So you start with building your community on Instagram and whatnot. So is your mindset like, I'm just going to go to events and kind of get the word out that way? Or what kind of marketing did you plan on doing to get people to know that you're selling things?
Yeah. So I try and find every community and try to talk to them at least once. Some, might not be interested now because we're too small, but you find your the people you jive with and go from there. So, we support basically, I think, every mountain bike community, or a lot of them in Edmonton or in Alberta. But the cool thing that we do is we'll design products for different groups. So like limited edition goggles. One of them we just launched a couple this week was with World Ride Mountain Bike. So they found a local artist to design the super cool strap. We have it on our website, pre-order. 30% of total sales goes to, raising funds for them. And that's what we've seen big traffic with, is like, that gets a lot of people going real fast. So that's where I'm focusing on a lot now, is, finding those different community groups and having them be our liaisons, and having those one-on-one conversations, so then they can have the conversations with, they have 500, 1,000, 2,000 up groups.
Yeah. Yeah. So like brand collaborations, almost something like that.
Yeah, just with smaller communities, because a lot of you'll see an artist or someone who's working with one of the bigger brands, they'll have like 150K, or like you'll find a community that has 150K, and it's like, when I built my ski club, we weren't anything special. Like, we were just a smaller group of people who wanted to do something cool, and that's how I resonate with a lot of people, is like, there's a lot of cool communities out there that are doing some things that don't get to see the limelight and get told like, hey, this is like amazing what you're doing, like can I help you make it bigger?
Yeah 100%. So you were talking about your process of coming up with the goggle, and like what you were taking in consideration. One of them you had mentioned like different coatings and stuff like that. So do you have a proprietary kind of formula that you're using for your lenses?
Yeah, so we call it Vision, VZN. Probably should, maybe it's like the same as Prism. When it first started out, people are like people are like, what's a VZN, or what's a Vizon, or whatever. I'm like, no, it's just Vision. And I'm like, it's gonna be super easy to think. And then you're like, oh, surprisingly, people still.
Yeah, dude, this is the story of my life. So for the first, let's say, 4 years that I did my YouTube channel, I started every video with, "What's up, YouTube? My name's Robert. This is the Biker channel." I feel like that's pretty easy to follow, but I can tell you to this day, like even last weekend, had somebody roll up and they're like, "Biker B1 or Biker 1." It's like, dude, it's just Biker. That's it. I thought it would be really easy because it's just Biker, and that's who we are. But no, man, you throw that one in there and it fucks everybody up. So, when you said the VZN, I was like, oh yeah, I know where this is going real quick.
Yeah, take out 3 letters and change it to a Z, and it's just mind blown.
Yeah. It happens though, man. It's not like anybody's doing it on purpose by any means. But so you have this this proprietary thing. So what's the obviously without the exact how-tos, like what does that do for people?
Yeah, so how I talked about blues and greens being very blended together, it doesn't make a lot of things pop for our natural eyes. So that's what our coatings do, is it it helps that clarity just get seen a lot better, and spot things out.
So I would assume that coating is probably different on your mountain bike goggles versus your ski goggles, or is it very similar? Or
very similar, just with different colors and letting things in, because with mountain biking you see you see low light too, but skiing is very cloudy, and we're trying to pick up on the pinks and everything, because it's a white background, where with greens you kind of want to blend it with a blue or a brown to kind of make that pop.
So if somebody's looking through the ski goggle, what would the general perception of the color of the lens be?
Our low light is a pink rose with a blue tint, so then it really helps those kind of mix together nicely. And then on our sunny day, it's a gray.
Yeah, like a gray color. Okay.
Yeah.
And then is that then a pinkish color as well with the mountain biking stuff, or?
We're gonna go probably clear and a little bit lighter, and then potentially look at doing high tech, very sensitive photochromatic, just because I found in biking photochromatic kind of, especially with the trees, like changes quite a bit. But I'm always open to feedback. There's people who know things better than me, but I can, that's what I really loved is, in August and September, people were like, "Oh, do you have photochromatic?" And I'm like, "No, not yet." And then I'm like, "Hey, factory, like, let's make photochromatic right now." And then we're prototyping it immediately, because a lot of people who wear their mountain bike, that's what they predominantly go to, is photochromatic immediately.
Yeah, I have I wear Oakley a lot, or that's pretty much all I wear. And They have the prism lenses, so that's like that pinkish orange almost of a color. And they pull that like as far as the dirt goes, like they make the little like variations in the dirt like a little bit easier to kind of see. So like you can kind of pick up on that, like what the ground looks like. But they do have some like downsides to like a sunset kind of time of day. There's some spots where like I like will turn a corner and be like blind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for the most part, they're pretty good. But I also have a pair of photochromatics that originally I bought those just for night riding, because in my mind I was like, you know, sometimes these will, or most of the time that I'm using them night rided, they're just going to be clear. But if I'm like going to go ride somewhere that's really woodsy where it gets super dark, like Santa Cruz here, and that like it's the woods that are like, they're just dark in there, you know, and because of that, like those Oakley ones, even though they brighten things up, they don't do good enough of a job to like for how dark it gets in there's that forest. So
Yeah.
I started wearing the photochromatics a little bit more because of those kind of reasons, and I can see how people could get used to that. I wonder, is it a way to like get photochromatic, but you're like light B kind of the pinky color, and then it just gets darker, or is it like that's impossible what I'm trying to say?
No, because if someone wants to scroll back through our Instagram, you can, or maybe I didn't put it on our story, but it was on when I was chatting LinkedIn. We played with 3 different photochromatic lenses. So we played with the gray, we played with the blue, and we played with an orange. And
Okay.
the unfortunate thing is, you know, everyone, it split it 3 ways. Like people were like 30% of people like the black, 30% like the blue, and 30% like the orange. So I'm like, I think I'm just gonna make all 3. So, but then I don't know. It's hard because then it's like, you know, you give people too much choice and then they make no decision.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a thing as well. It's interesting how things play out like that. It's like so many things that you wouldn't think of, that it's better to have like 3 t-shirts to choose from instead of 20.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, interesting. So that first season you get the snow goggles launched, and kind of what was the reception? Were you like, this is awesome, I'm flying around the world tomorrow on my private jet?
I mean, if I had $1 billion, then, you know, to grow something, you can just make it fast because you know, you're not caring about like profitability at that point. You're just like, shoot to grow, and then we'll get efficient. Where I've always been like, I like to be profitable first and then just invest back into it. But yeah, it's been going over well. Like we 5x'd our demand in winter of what I thought, and then we did the same thing in the summer with our sunglasses. And you know, I'm currently thinking we'll probably see another big boost because, you know, once someone comes in, they kind of stay and talk about us.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. I think the warranty alone is enough to get other people interested. You know what I mean? I feel like that's like it's risky. You know what I mean? In terms of like the potential for abuse, but on the other hand, it's like more people are probably honest than one would think. And then outside of that, though, but it really makes you stand out. It really does, and that's I think that is worth it on its own. You know.
Well, that's what we say in the warranty is like, you know, if you're claiming a pair of sunglasses every day for the next like 20 days and giving it, like, we know you're not doing that.
Yeah.
Or, you know, let's actually have a real conversation to figure out why you're losing something that fast so often or breaking something fast.
Right.
But it's like, okay, so that person voids the warranty, so they don't get it anymore. But now I have another 19 people who are hyping this up to like, because like he's like, their friends are like, oh, Good Day Optics stands behind their warranty. That's phenomenal. Because, you know, I bet you everyone who's listening, they can name one warranty issue or one problem of dealing with the company. So if I can be the company that like, oh, you know, we put our word out there, so not then I have 20 people out of this goggle or whatever they bought all being like, oh, you should check out Good Day Optics because yeah, I'm a douche and abuse the system, but like that they stood behind it.
Yeah. Like they're marketing for you whether they realize it or not, is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
So that first season goes well. I guess what I was saying is like the goggles went, I'm assumingly well, and as soon as they hit market, I guess you start cranking back on the sunglasses again, like on trying to get the design done, or were you wrapped up at the same time?
Yeah, trying to get the design done. Again, I've been great at missing exactly like let's launch at the optimal time. Um, so you know, I'm usually fighting myself a little bit because it's like, you know, I started prototyping sunglasses and everything in March because I'm like, oh, it'll be like a 60-day turnaround. They'll come like May and be great.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, nope, they didn't come till I think July 1st. So
Oh yeah.
I missed half. Same thing with the goggles, right? Like, you know, my goggles arrived like December 25th or December, some late December. So again, I missed a little bit of the season. But so yeah, I usually battle myself a little bit, but that's, you know, the joys of learning. You know, if you think it's 60 days or think it's anything, double it.
Yeah. It's
If
always
not
gonna
more.
be. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think the thing with sunglasses is that like people do wear them all year though, so it's probably just not as much of a sale in the summer, but I think you're probably all right on that. So what did you do sunglass wise? Like what was your plan for your design to like make that stand out?
Yeah, so I had originally was just gonna do the glasses that I'm wearing because they're named after. So I was like, because that's how I started in goggles was one, and then I'm like quickly heard from all my mountain bike friends like, hey, let's do, and cycling friends and running like, hey, you should look at making an oversized thing immediately. So I'd actually launch with two, and you know, um, go from there, and um, yeah, it was like, okay, so with the cycling ones, I wanted to, you know, have the best ability to not have fog because with any of those sports, you know, you get hot right away, and then
So hang on, maybe I'm missing something. So um did you go into sunglasses for biking in the summer, or did you go into like more like lifestyle, like regular sunglasses for the summer?
started with lifestyle first, so the
Uh-huh.
Melissas, and then
So
um,
for people that are listening, it's kind of like almost like a frog skin kind of
Ray Ban,
Ray-Ban kind of hybrid, something
yeah,
like that. Yeah.
yeah, and then you know, a lot of biking people who I was friends with were like, "Are you gonna make something bigger for me? Because I don't like having the frame in my field of vision." I'm like, "Oh no!" And then I was just like, "Oh, let's see if I can add something on quickly, get a smaller MOQ as
Mhm.
we produce because I'm already producing and do two products at once."
So
Um,
you were thinking that people would ride with those glasses because you were like, you personally probably were content with that type of glasses.
No, well, I originally wasn't going after, like, at this point when I was launching, I wasn't really a mountain biker. I wouldn't have classified myself as a mountain
Uh-huh.
biker, so I wasn't thinking at it
You didn't,
until
yeah. So
until
it
my
wasn't
friends.
even in your scope at that point. You were just like, I'm making sunglasses. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, just make a lifestyle one, and I'm I was big water sports, so paddleboarding, kayaking, being on boats and everything. So then I'm like,
Right.
I'm just gonna make a lifestyle one and make sure it floats because I hate
Uh-huh.
losing my sunglasses to the water.
So they float.
Yeah. So the Melissa's the so yeah, when people go to the website and they go to the sunglass collection, the reason why it says seize the day and seas is spelled SEAS as in like ocean is because
Mhm.
they float and have seawater protection on them, so the salt doesn't eat them.
Right on. So what's the situation there? Because I'm sure a lot of people don't even know what you're talking about. What's the
Uh,
deal with the seawater?
yeah, so seawater is really bad for lens coatings and basically all plastics. Like it just, if you don't wash them after, that salt will do what salt does and start eating away and corroding things. Um, so
Interesting. Yeah, I can't tell you how many pairs of my sunglasses I've definitely worn in the ocean and had zero idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, and like 1 or 2 times you probably don't notice it. It's like when you continually are in that water, and then you'll see like, oh, after probably 30 to 60 times, you'll start to see like, oh, these lenses aren't, like, you'll just maybe start to feel them being a little pitted and everything, and they won't clean as well anymore, and just a lot more glary.
This makes so much more sense why my Oakleys are doing what they're doing, because I'm one of those heavy sweater kind of guys. So essentially, every time I ride, I'm putting my sunglasses in the ocean and not cleaning them. So I'm learning lessons today. Thank you, Jared.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So basically, you start this lifestyle brand. First of all, let me back up here. How did you get them to float?
Using special types of plastic, just using a lighter material, rather than using heavier plastics, allows you to make something that floats.
Right on. And then I'm sure it's still like a balancing act then of getting something that's durable and the right amount of flexible and still comfortable. Yeah. So was that just like kind of leaning on your factory in that aspect, or like you had some things in mind, or?
Yeah, I was chatting with them, and I was like, hey, let's, because there are a few brands who do floating, and I'm like, can we do this? And I'm like, can we figure out what materials are being used? And like, oh yeah, we can. That's the interesting thing about when you manufacture in Asia, is nothing is if you let everyone have your data, it goes through everything. Like they share it like nobody's business. Like there's nothing proprietary there. So that's like, where when I do the coatings and everything, like, I make sure the person there is like my employee and not someone else. Cause it's like, if we don't get that right, my technology is going to another brand immediately.
Yeah. There's definitely not much stopping them over there.
Yeah. Sure. So then I'm like, well, you guys probably interact with or have someone or know someone who has a floating pair of sunglasses. And like, yep. And I'm like, okay, let's go figure out what they're using in those materials. Cause I haven't been playing in the optic space and playing with floating materials. I played with corrosions and I played with different coatings like Gore-Tex and stuff. So I was like, let's figure out. Yeah. So like you asked 100% factory help with that.
Yeah. That's rad. So, I mean, that's definitely like, that's one less way that you could lose your glasses and have to use the warranty.
Yeah. Well, and we, as we grow, we continue to add more and more things. So currently we're miniaturizing tracking things, like tracking tags. So like a tile or an air tag, but like making it like this big. So like a millimeter or two. And then what I'll do is probably just have them embedded into the frame. And then similar to like, how your iPhone charges, just drop it on a pad once in a while and charge that back up. But then this allows me to be like, hey, when someone is, having fun at a bar, now your phone is telling you, oh, hey, dumbass, your sunglasses are, 50 meters away from you now instead of in your pocket like they're supposed to be.
That's pretty cool. So then that would just use the Apple technology itself. So it wouldn't be like you have to build your own application to notify people or anything like that.
Yeah, like we're still playing with it. So yeah, we can get it to pick up on like AirTag and everything, or like Apple, like Find My thing. But we might go full app eventually, because like then all our technology can live in there. Because like I want to build 3D scanning. So then you use the LiDAR in your phone. So then it scans your face. So then I can custom make a goggle or sunglass to then fit bigger faces or smaller faces. So then that would have to live somewhere. Like we could have it on a website, but then it's like, if we're starting to do that, like have all our stuff in there, have our virtual try on in the app, but then we can build our own like have community stuff built in there too. Cause like currently, like just with where like there doesn't seem to be like one good conversation app anymore. It's like, some people are in Discord, some people are in WhatsApp, some people are in Facebook, some people are like using Instagram DMs. But then it's like, if we had our own app, then it's the people who really love and want to come out to our events and, engage with the brand a lot stronger can do that right in there.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than
Yeah.
being like, because I think people would have an easier time downloading an app for a brand they love, rather than be like, hey, I want you to use Discord to like join our community if someone is into gamer or student.
Yeah. Or if you're using the app to, like you said, like try them on, or you're using the app to, like, there's other reasons to have it other than just like communicating with your optics company. Like I can see then it being like, hey, just shoot us a message on our app. You know what I mean? Like that makes sense to me.
Yeah, and then we could have our returns and warranty in there, so it's like, you don't have to go to some weird website, fill in everything. It's like, hey, it's all kind of saved with you already, and you can chat with us a lot faster.
Yeah, I could see building that out. That makes sense to me in that aspect. At first, I was like, I don't know, man. You might be spending some money and some time on doing something that doesn't matter. But I think in the way that people communicate nowadays, that I would think that, and I'm going to go out on a limb here. I would think that a app is probably more powerful than having a website at this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just so much easier for people to like get your information that way. I mean, so even there's a lot of startups, like tech startups, where they're app based, and basically the website is only like a splash page telling you to download the app.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, and other than that, it's like, no, there's nothing there. There's no other information going on here. So, yeah. And honestly, like most people are surfing the web on their mobile device over an actual like at their computer,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely an interesting thought process to kind of go down that path. So you start making these lifestyle glasses. Next thing you know, your buddies are like, or your customers are like, hey man, how about some real riding glasses? So how do you pivot then?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really much of a pivot because I just used our contacts and our resources, and like, hey, let's build something for cycling and biking and everything. And they're like, okay, yeah, we've done it for other people, so it's not a hard ask. They're like, let's do 20,000 minimum order quantity or something wild like that. I'm like, yeah, how about since I'm already building stuff in the factory, how about we make it like, same size.
And
they're like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, because like if it goes well, I'm coming back to you. But if you strangle out your builder before they even get going, it's like, then I'm just like in debt and like not like, yeah.
So that set of glasses that you brought out is more like a frameless kind of design.
Yeah, like frameless on the bottom, just on the top, and then
kind of like, I'm just trying to give somebody something that's listening, maybe like a trying to think of what that
what are they called? I mean, like Smith, I think they're the Hellcats or something. Something like that big that big frame, oversized sunglasses.
I'm trying to. There's another brand of sunglasses too that's like a little bit, not 100%, but they're like always like real wild colors and
Pit Viper.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah.
So so essentially now those are the three models that you have. It's just the goggles, the sunglasses, and then the mountain biking sunglasses, and then later you decided then to do mountain bike goggles as well.
Yeah, so then I was like because we did a spherical goggle at the start, and just with where people like the look of the cylindrical shape, the flat lens, even though it's not as good for clarity or anything. So, some strange reason people like them more, just like how they look.
In the mountain biking goggles is what you're saying.
And skiing.
Okay.
So like, you'll see ski goggles, like very high end ones, be spherical. So it curves in both directions, where cylindrical is just one side curvature. or one axis curvature. So then I was like, okay, people need a cylindrical design, or they want it for snowboarding. And I'm like, and now people keep asking me, are you going to make a mountain bike goggle? And I'm like, well, I don't know. At this time, I'm like, not a downhiller person. I mean, now I'm doing it on my 100 millimeter travel hardtail bike, but I get down it and have fun. But so then I'm like, okay, what is this here? And then I'm like, wait a second, mountain bike goggles look very similar to ski goggles. Like what's going on here? Let's do a deep dive. And so really the only difference that you'll see between a snowmobile goggle or a dirt bike goggle, so like different season, is the number of layers of lenses. So because we use magnets to do quick change and everything, I'm like, well, what if I made a goggle that did all seasons? When like, because like my mindset, I'm like, I don't want to nickel and dime people. I just want to do something, do it well, and do it right. So I could be like every company. I could have a $200 mountain bike goggle, and I could have a $300 ski goggle, and they would be very identical. The only difference being is how many layers of lenses you get in there. But then I was like, or what if I use the same frame and make it a mountain bike goggle if they want the single layer lens, or ski goggle and do a 2-layer lens. So then, yeah. And then for the people who do both sports, it's like, hey, in the winter, put your winter lenses on. In the summer, put your summer lenses in. So then it's like one goggle to do both sports.
So like the shape doesn't change any difference with like thinking of having a mountain bike helmet on versus having a ski or snowboard helmet on?
No, I mean, with mountain biking and being full faced, you can't go as big. But you also don't need the hugest goggle to have the best vision. It's how it's shaped on your face, how far away it sits, and everything like that. So I got it as doing both, the best abilities in both worlds for distance away. And I've had people mountain bike with it as their prototype and ski with it, and both liked it.
And then you said that the goggles or that the lenses are using magnets to change?
Yeah. So, I mean, for you, I can show you, and then I can do describe video. So Jared is grabbing the goggle, and then we grab the lens, and then now they separate, and then the magnets grab it back together and put it on.
Yeah, that actually like seems so logical that you wonder why a lot of other people aren't doing the same thing.
So
because changing your lenses is like a pain in the ass almost no matter which pair of goggles you have.
Yeah. So this is what I've found. And like, when you own 80% of the market, you can do basically whatever you want and everyone else follows you. But so I was in a mountain town this summer, and people saw a couple reps saw my floating sunglasses. And the thing they told me immediately was, oh, that is bad for repeat purchases. And I'm like, that should not be the mentality we have why we don't have technology in our stuff. Like, oh, because someone won't repeat purchase it. Like, oh, if they lose it in the water, that means that they have to go buy another $300 pair of goggles. Or like sunglasses. It's like, how about we start putting technology in things that makes it better for the end user rather than the person's wallet. Like,
yeah. I mean, because for me, I know like I'd come back because I want that other color.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like that, like, or later when you have a different style, then I'm like, well, I'm going to go with these guys. They have a badass warranty and I'm not going to drop them in the lake.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And then when you put the customer first, they want to stay. Like when you don't treat them like a dollar sign, like people are like, oh, new product. Okay. I'll try it out. Or like you said, like, why would I go? What, like if a brand is treating you well, why would you go look and doing things to push the needle forward? Why would you go look elsewhere?
Yeah. No, that's pretty rad, man. I think that your mindset is the way that things should be instead of how like, so like, let's just say like maybe capitalist driven or something like that. You know what I mean? Like where it's all really about the dollar. I think that you're looking at it from a different aspect where it's like, okay, well, maybe I'm not like trying to bend them over on how much money I can make, but instead I can make a good customer that then will make the money.
Yeah. Well, why can't I make a product that's good for you and then try and make something else that you might like? Like, why
Yeah.
do I need you to just be, why do I just need to continually have you buy that one product?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
like, cause when I first launched, it was like, yeah, I'm, probably never going to see anyone. And then now they just stay and bring a friend. And I'm like, this is kind of cool. I'm going to keep doing this.
Yeah. So I heard you say earlier that the one model name was the Melissa. Is there something that you're using for where are the names coming up for the models?
So yeah, when I was building the brand, I was like, because my mom allowed me to start the company, and then I was like, oh, to remember my mom, I'm going to name the flagship sunglasses the Melissa. And when I originally was going to start, I was going to be like, oh, women's products named after men who inspired me, and men's products named after women who inspire the company. And when I say me, I mean I just live my brand, so that's why I always get it mixed up. But it's like, people who inspire the company. But then I was like, well, you know what? Unfortunately, women don't always get the same recognition as men. So I was like, I'm just going to name all our products after women who inspire us. And then that's just what we go on. So, the flagship were named after my mom. And then our flagship goggle was named after my wife. And then the mountain bike was named after my sister, the Jenna. And then now our ski goggle and mountain bike goggle that does both. I'm like, well, that's kind of like a jack of all trades. And I'm like, who do I know that's in that regard? So then I'm like, oh, my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law is Valerie. So, and like, she's done, like, it's phenomenal what she can do as a woman. Like, she does framing, she does plumbing, she does tiling, she does like when we bought our house, we had to do a full gut in 3 weeks on the main floor, and my mother-in-law is just there, like, with the nail gun, doing everything, like absolutely, like, does it tenfold to my father-in-law. And I'm like, man, this is like, this woman kicks ass.
Yeah.
So then that's awesome. That's where it comes from. And then when I go further, our next product, well, I'll probably have a product named after something coming up of someone coming into the future. But then there's in Revelstoke, there's Rogers Pass. And so normally I've always been like, and like everyone, like, you drive through things, you don't stop and like explore, you usually just drive through and get to them. So I'm like, now I try to stop in places, see things, like, get to learn something. So in Revelstoke, in Rogers Pass, they were talking about all the mountaineering people. Back in the 1800s, there was actually women there who were like doing all the mountaineering. So I'm like, oh, this is like super cool. Like, when I build a glacier sunglass or something with like the sides, I'm gonna name it after one of the women who like was pushing mountaineering forward in the 1800s. Because I'm like, as a Canadian, I've talked to all my friends, like, no one stops at that spot. Like, I'm like, did you know this was like women were moving this forward back then? Like, they were wearing like doing everything, and like, people are like, no, I've never stopped there, and I've driven through there like 150 times.
Yeah. It's interesting how that is. That's really rad. I think it's cool. I think it's a story that can be told, well on your site, and I think that it can help, like, build your brand. And I think it's a cool thing. Definitely is. Oh, shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. I knew this always happens.
I do that too. It's like, talk about something and then my brain just feels light. I'm like, oh, that idea is gone. That is such a weird feeling.
Yeah, there goes that. So I wanted to ask you this kind of came to fruition through this experience with your mom. Is there anything that you are doing as a company that's like giving back to like cancer or something like that? Or
I've been going back and forth with the cancer thing just because it's so much funded.
uh-huh.
And it's like, at the start, I don't know if I can do something amazingly impactful that,
Yeah.
when they get multi-million dollars and are doing the research. So I'm like, I don't know if I can make as big of a difference what I want to do. And so like with the art that I'm raising funds with is I want to build like a scholarship or something where like I'll help look after the funding so you can pursue an idea to go into entrepreneurship. So
Mm-hmm.
I haven't found an organization that does that yet. So I don't know if it's like, it'll live in Good Day Optics. I would rather it,
Mm-hmm.
we just donate to like X
Yeah.
fund and, we just are helping people. But it's like, okay, so you're doing your job. You have some debt, you have a family. You can't just quit that and go pursue your passion or idea.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be like this fund would, it'd be like, here's 6 months of your salary, like take a sabbatical or something. And so then you can pursue it.
Interesting. Yeah. That's definitely big high hopes, like it's like a big dream. Like it's like that's a lot of money to raise.
Well, it's like that's kind of like what my mom allowed me to do, right? Like she had
Yeah.
left me stuff. So then it was like, I don't have to worry as much. So I'm like, I want to replicate that for other people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Somebody asked in the comments if you'd consider making a prescription sunglasses. Is there any plans for something like that?
Yeah, 100%. We're just a 1-year-old brand, so I
Yeah.
can't do everything immediately. So the only prescriptions currently are the ones on my face because every time, like I used to have another brand on my face, and everyone would be like, "Oh, is that your brand?" I'm like, "No, I make sunglasses and goggles." And
Yeah.
then they'd be like, "I'm like, this is a pair of glasses." So then I'm just like, I'm gonna take a sunglass frame and then go get some lenses cut. Um,
Uh-huh.
for it. So then I can just be like, when someone asks now, yeah. And then, yeah, that's the goal is like, that's where, um, and the thing that I didn't realize, like, I was like, cause for half my, or I don't know, whatever 32 of 34 is like 98% of, my life was not with, prescription glasses. I was like, oh, I don't think it's that many people. And then now the amount of times who I ask, or who get asked to about like making a prescription pair of sunglasses,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, it's a lot more. I need to get in this space.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
me, I wear contacts. I've worn contacts for such a long time. So for me, it's not even something I ever think about because in my mind, it's like, even though I have prescription glasses, like if I was wearing my glasses during the day and I was going to go riding, I would put my contacts in like every time. It's just like, to me, riding with glasses just sounds awful.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm surprised that people are like, I want prescription ones. I'm like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, like because all my friends who had glasses way before would just put their contacts in and then wear their goggles, or if they weren't blind enough that they could see blurrily. Mountain biking is a little different because, like,
Yeah,
you're seeing like little tiny things. Or trying to avoid them. Where like skiing
yeah,
is like big open play. Like it's not as like minuscule, and you won't notice like a little rock sticking out
yeah,
as much. So then they just be like, oh, I can see pretty decent. It's not as good as when I have my glasses on, but I don't want to poke my eyes with
yeah,
to
yeah,
put some contacts in.
yeah, yeah. So how does that work if you're doing prescription? Do you have to actually be manufacturing these different prescriptions, or do you like kind of like subcontract with some other company and then you like special order them whenever something would want them?
Yeah. I haven't dug enough into it.
Uh-huh. So
But I know on like on a small scale, it's like I could like because we do like for our and I guess we do technically have a prescription glasses for the cycling ones because we have an insert. So anyone who has myopia, um, you know, just let us know and we put them in there. So then
Mhm.
they can take that insert and then go to their optometrist and have that put in, and then it just sits into the front of it.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, right on. Yeah, it's interesting. It's Do you have a like a clear lens with your kind of lifestyle ones as well, or just the tinted ones?
Just the tinted. So we have a blue and a red currently.
Mm-hmm.
Our clear lives in the cycling, where you get your three lenses, so you get your color choice, and then
Mm-hmm.
currently we're doing a promo where you get your clears, your yellow, and a darker black, all included with it. So you actually get four lenses.
Oh wow, with the which ones?
The Jennas, the cycling glasses, the mountain
The
bike
cycling
glasses.
ones. Got it. Right on. And then what are those things retail for?
$3.99.
So for $400 you said four different lenses or three different lenses?
Four.
Right on.
So then an American price was I think it's like 300 American.
So how do those change? Do those also use some kind of magnet, or is it like
No,
pop into the frame somehow?
the frame. So yeah, Jared pulling pops
Got
out like that, and then it just pops back in.
Got it. Yeah, I've seen a similar design to that then.
Yeah.
So at this point you said you've been doing this for a year?
Yeah, August. Well, so yeah, ideation or idea of Good Day Optics started August 1st of 2022. I didn't incorporate until April of this year. So This depends on where we want to measure.
Look at it.
Yeah.
You said you had launched somewhere around January or something like that.
Yeah, because up in Canada it's a little different. It's like they have that window until you hit a X amount of revenue of doing something. Because I'm like, I'm not gonna do all this crazy incorporations, all these crazy documents, all this crazy business stuff if I don't have a business.
Yeah, and then that's also like it's money as well. So it's like maybe kind of test the water a little bit and see if it's something that's going to stick or whatnot.
Yeah.
How did you find out how to do all that stuff? Just like Google something, or did you like reach out to some third-party company to like help you out with it, or?
Google. My family, my in-laws are very entrepreneurial, and then getting into the startup and entrepreneur space in Edmonton.
Right on. So where do you want to see this go? Like, do you want to just continue bringing out like different styles of optics every year? You had mentioned something like that earlier, or?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I would love to continue to see the brand grow, and then grow in different countries. So we're planning to launch in Japan because we have our ambassadors, we call them shred friends, because we care more about having fun, bringing other people in and having good days rather than like if someone can spin a 1080 all the time. We have guides we have shred friends who are guides in Japan and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, your logo and your name of Good Day like translates super easily into Japanese. And your cartoonish smiley face is already like very cartoonized. That does well over there. They're like, you need to make a high bridge goggle, and let's launch this into Japan because I think it'll do very well. So that's what we're building and going for. So like and that's also why we made our Valerie be a smaller frame. It was a two birds with one stone. Is the Emily isn't great for people who have small faces. So then we went and made a with mountain bike, I can only make a goggle so big, and then putting more foam into the nose piece. So then it just forms better to everyone's face.
That's the mountain bike one that you're saying?
Yeah, mountain bike, and also snow if.
Yeah. So because you don't have, or do you still have a separate ski goggle from the mountain bike, like the both goggle?
Yeah, so Emily is snow only, just because it is too. I mean, if you're a winter biker, you could use it because and with not a full face helmet. But then our Valerie is, the mountain bike goggle, and
the Valerie is the one that does both of them. Then.
Yeah,
and then that one has the wider bridge. You said.
Just more padding in the nose, because for like you or me, it'll just form a nicer, tighter fit. But for people of Asian descent, where you have that face shape where your nose isn't as pronounced bridge, then that foam will help eat up space and form better for them as well.
Got it. Yeah, that was one of the things whenever I started wearing goggles, that most of the goggles that I tried on, it like pinched my nose. So I was online trying to find something that like, what's the widest one that I can get,
Yeah.
and there was, and then you're like, you don't really know until you get them. So you're like kind of nervous about spending, $300 on a pair of goggles that like, are these really going to fit?
Yeah. And that, I guess that can go into our other point of, I have a 60-day return policy on our products because,
Mhm.
we're double everyone else. But then the next thing is it's like, we'll take it back even if you like it's a used policy. Like, go out and test it, go out and use it. If you don't like it, then return it.
Mhm.
And everyone's like, oh, you need to have tags, you need to have that. I'm like, I don't want you to jump over hoops and everything of like trying to do this. It's like, if you don't love the product, I want to get you your money back, because I would rather have people who love Good Day optics rather than people who, yeah, I bought this, it didn't fit, but now I just tell people I tried it out and it didn't work for me. I would rather than be like, yeah, it didn't work, but Good Day gave me my money back. So, because again, when I make another product, they're going to be intrigued. They're going to try it out and know like, oh, okay, maybe this one will work for me. Rather than, oh yeah, I'm sitting on a $400 pair of goggles that didn't work for me, so I'm never going to try them out again.
Yeah. So is you've only been at it for a year and you have like 4 products, and you had mentioned like doing a new product every year. So are you going to try to keep doing 4 products a year? Or are you going to try to like see like, okay, I'm going to try to like just focus on one every year? Or
yeah, like one or two per season. Also, it depends on demand and growth, right? Like if we continue on the trend of, our 25 to 50% month over month growth, we can support more products because more people are coming in, and there's a variety. When we hit market size or whatever is like our penetrated thing, then maybe we can't do it. But like, there's companies that are continually popping up and taking space. You just need to figure out how to resonate with the consumer and take up your space for them.
Yeah. So where do you see this going? Do you like just want to like have this optic company until forever, or are you like I want to grow this and like sell this, or what's your plan?
Yeah, so I've always loved building brands. I've always loved building things, and I've always loved putting the customer first. So like once Good Day takes off, um, or well, hopefully when it takes off and is sustainable, either have an employee buy-in, so then that gets me out so I can start the next thing. But then it would be like, okay, we're going to do Good Day optics, sunglasses and goggles. Okay, maybe we'll do a mitt brand. Then we'll do something else. And then once we have like 5 to 10 brands, what I want to do is, because like, this space, like mountain towns are expensive. I want to build either European hostels, so then it's more affordable to come to these places, and then have a space that has retail, because then I'll have all my 10 brands living there. So then, I don't have to take you don't have to take all your eggs from that one basket of optics or one basket of this. It's like, they live all together. So then it's like, you can spread your profit margins. And then, yeah, so I just want to continue building brands, continue like making space for people to have fun and everything, and go from there.
Yeah, 100%. So
Sorry,
is that a dog?
That's my crazy dog. So my one dog is a working dog. So he goes to a child protection center and has a more 9 to 5 job than I do now.
What kind of dog is that?
He's a black lab.
Oh, right on.
So then he goes and sits in court with the people who where the children have been abused, and help them tell their story and feel supported.
Oh, wow. How did you get into that with him?
So my wife used to work for that organization, and then they were getting a new dog, so they needed a home handler. So then that's where we stepped in.
Yeah.
So he lives with me and then goes to work every day.
That's funny. He has more of a job than me.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
More on or more consistent. It's not
Yeah.
like he's starting at 6 a.m. and then the next day starting at 10 a.m. It's like
Right.
I always drive him to work to get there for like 8:15 or 8:30, and then every day I go and pick him up at like 4:30.
Yeah.
I try to ask him like, "Oh, how was your day today? Like, did you meet some good kids?" He just looks at me and wags his tail, but
Yeah. That's awesome. I love labs. I've had a few of them. We have a red lab right now, and he's a character, that's for sure. They're really smart dogs, but they're also just like, I feel like I just really like their like composure, like what kind of like personality they have,
Yeah, he's a 65-pound lap dog.
Mhm.
But yeah, super smart. Like he knows how to pick things up because he like got all the training that like a seeing eye dog or like assist dog there. So like he can push the buttons for like an elevator or opening a door. He can go grab and pick up things. Yeah, it's pretty cool what he can do.
So that is really rad. Yeah. Mine does some things, but only when there's food involved.
Extra slobber engaged.
Yeah. Ours is 7, and people are like, "Oh, he's not a puppy still." And we're like, "No, he's not. He's just a hot mess." No, but I don't know. I like labs because I'm a water person. I really like the water a lot, so I enjoy dogs that are like down to go swimming, and like I think it's fun like throwing the ball or whatever
Yeah.
in a river or a lake with them, and like they're also like a dog that can still go ride bikes. They just maybe they can't do the miles that some of these like herding dogs can do, but
Yeah.
they can still go out and do some decent stuff as long as you got them in the right shape. So
yeah. And then we have another Australian Shepherd, which like loves water way too much. Like she just has like a full like craziness to her, like where she'll just like throw me a stick, throw me a stick, throw me a stick, throw me a stick, throw me a stick.
Yeah.
And then if you don't, then she just starts sitting there and like vibrating to be like,
yeah. My lab is definitely when it comes to like, he knows like if we're going to the river, like, and he is it sounds like when we get out of the car that we're strangling him, but he's just really excited.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh man, he loves the water. Like you let him off the leash and he's just like 100 miles an hour. The one time we were getting out of the car and like my wife just wasn't playing like defense well enough, and he was just like, he knew where he was at, took off down to the river. Like by the time we get down there, it's like, it's like 300 yards away from like where we're parking or something, it's like he's just gone. And what are you gonna do? I'm not gonna run out there and catch him. Like like he's 5 times faster than me. And so we get down there and he's like, out in the river swooning around. He's got somebody's football. He's just a mess. But he means well, so
yeah, that's most important. But super. Is your lab super food motivated too?
Oh, it's just he's actually probably the most food motivated animal that I've ever had. And I mean, I've like every lab I've had has like always been like a food motivated, but like we had to get him a slow bowl because he eats so fast. And like even with the slow bowl, like he's done in like 30 seconds. Like what I do now is pour some of the food in the slow bowl and the rest of it just all over the floor, because then it at least takes them like a little bit longer to like walk around and find it.
45 seconds.
Yeah. It's unbelievable how fast he can eat. It's like he makes a vacuum cleaner look slow. Like
ours is funny. So like he'll listen like all the time, but then like so like we'll tell him like Matt to go eat or like to get the food ready, and then he's just sitting on the mat and like drooling.
Oh yeah, we have him sit. Like I always tell him that like where we feed him. Like I've always, ever since he was really little, and I've actually done this with all my labs, is always like make them sit and then make them sit away from you, and then you like give them a release command to come eat, because at the end of the day, these dogs are going to get bigger than they are when they're a puppy. And it's cute
Yeah.
when they're all like jumping on you when they're a puppy, but when they're 90 pounds, you're like, I don't need a jumping dog. Like, so we do similar. We just don't say mat. And we're always like telling him to back up. And he's really sitting on the kitchen mat, like in front of the sink.
Yeah.
And we make him back up enough so that when he's drooling, it's going on the carpet, the little, throw carpet, instead of like you said, it's like a faucet with that guy. As soon as he's like thinking food, it's ridiculous. So
Yeah.
So you said you got into mountain biking not too long ago?
Yeah. So yeah, I bought my bike last September because I'm like, oh, I should probably get a bike and try it out because I had a little bit of disposable income. Didn't go full suspension, but I've also learned that having a hardtail and having to pick your routes helps a lot. And then just started joined a couple little community groups here, started riding with them, and then I started making my own. I used to ride when the sun was out in the morning, every morning at 6:45 a.m. Monday to Friday. Usually on weekends we started a little later, but then had like a group of like 10 people every time come out, and it was just a good way to get the exercise in the morning. We'd go for like a 20-kilometer ride.
So then are you still on the hardtail?
Yeah, this year finished with hardtail, but then next year going full suspension, looking for like that 160, 150 millimeter enduro travel. Just because like I was going out to, like, that's where my sunglasses do really well. So it's like going out to supporting women's enduro races, going out to other mountain bike events, and going out to ride. And in Edmonton we don't have as much drops or anything like that, but in the mountains we do. So it's like, I want something that can do both.
Yeah, totally. What are you looking at? What are you thinking what's gonna be the full suspension?
So I was looking at a Canyon Spectral 29, but then also have friends who look after ibis up here in Canada, so might talk with them. And then talking with Mark and Joey from the segment, they know YT very good, so like, oh, you should check out these bikes too. So it's probably going to be one of those three choices.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure anything that you get nowadays is going to be a good bike. So I think you can't be going wrong with any of those. No. Anything else about your brand that you feel like we haven't covered?
I mean, so like our slogan is always good days. And people, when we first said that, like people are like, you can't always have good days. So we still keep it like that, but then we went and played with it further. So we actually have a good days or else pledge, where it's like we have people like, hey, come sign the pledge. There's 5 rules that you'll adhere, and if you're not having a good day, and if we don't think you're holding it, where the or else comes from is like, we want to come visit you and make sure you have a good day. So it's like, maybe it's like either we send you a care package, or like what I really would love doing is like picking someone at random and just like coming to their house one day and be like, oh, you didn't, we thought maybe we could help make your day better. Here's X amount of dollars to cover your salary for the day. You're taking it off, and we're going to go do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. So that's part of your community that you're building?
Yeah. Just a fun little way to, have fun and do something a little different.
What inspires that?
Just having fun, I guess, and being silly and being myself. Because with like, I don't know with your ADHD experience, but like, we learn quickly to mask and then like just try to fit in. Where my mom, her passing, like I was like, oh, life's short. Like it showed me like, kind of, if something I'm not enjoying doesn't do it, like just stop it. But then it made me go tenfold of like being more authentic and like, having that fun. Cause like, even if only 1% of people in the world are, having fun and wanting to do it with like that's 1% of 8 billion people. That's still 800 million. Yeah. That's still a lot of people.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. It's like it's perspective that a lot of people need to have. I think that it's really easy to focus on things that aren't like the good aspects, and to me, like every day should be a good day,
Yeah,
and if it doesn't feel like it is, I bet you there's still something that you can look at it and take out of it. And
yeah,
I think that's like a much easier, like it's a much easier mindset to like live with every day than the other way around. And I think that people that don't have that like super positive outlook, like they maybe don't understand how that is, but it's like realistically it's 100% up to you, like whether something is good or bad. Like you have the power in your own mind
you
to
can't.
be upset or to be happy.
Yeah, you
Like
can't. I can't change the outcome of what someone does. I can
yeah,
change how I react to it, though.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I used to tell my kids when they were little, like, you get to decide when you're not mad anymore. So,
Yeah,
like, you can walk around and be mad all day because something happened in the morning, or you can be mad for like 30 seconds.
yeah,
Like, there is no like timer that when something bad happens that you're like, oh, it's over. Now we can be fine again. It's like 100% you.
yeah,
And I don't know. I just prefer to live my life that way because um, it just feels better,
yeah,
Like, I don't know. Maybe I let too many things go too. There's some people I've met in my life that are like, you need to be upset about things longer. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. you
yeah,
know? But,
100%. Or it's like,
yeah.
yeah, people like you should be mad about this. It's like, well, why do I have to be mad about it? I just don't have to. Like,
Yeah.
if something made me mad, just don't do it again. Like, yeah, like
Yeah.
have that person no longer, or have that thing no longer in your life. But like, you don't have to
Yeah.
hold on to anger and
Yeah. I,
like,
yeah. Yeah. I think that the ADHD part of me too is like super logical or like analytical. So like in those type of situations, I think in my mind, I'm like, well, there's nothing that I can do to like change the fact that this happened. So
yeah,
like, why am I going to dwell on that aspect of it? You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like to me, it's like, okay, like shiny ball. How do we fix this, or how do we move forward?
yeah. Well, and I think it's because like with our brain, like shiny ball or shiny object or something
yeah,
else is pulling at you. So like we quickly learn to let things go or try new things. That it's like that, like that's the thing. People are always like, oh, it seems so, like, how did you start a business? And I'm like, well, like I've tried so many different things or tried so many different like ideas or things, and like you just continue to do it and try it, and yeah, like would I have launched a sunglass brand when I was first doing my first thing? No, probably not. But
hmm
like, oh, I tried a hoodie company or tried a sock or did this or did that or did this, and then
hmm
when you figure out what starts aligning with your passions and like continue doing it, then it's like our energy is like tenfold with ADHD, because it's like we just want to
yeah,
focus on that one thing.
yeah, yeah. Definitely, I like lean way in. What's the advice that you would give to people that were considering something to be like an entrepreneur of some type?
Honestly, just do it. Like, I a lot of my stuff lives in the B2C space, so it's always like a lot harder to get something going immediately in that space. But there's ways to find communities and ways to do that. So it's kind of like B2B at the end of the day too. But like it takes, like, I heard from someone, the fastest way to success is to get to year 8. So like any companies that you've seen, like, or longer. So any companies that like is like, right, like Starbucks started in the 70s, but they didn't get big till like the 90s and 2000s. Um,
hmm
and like when you ever see any company that just popped off, or you started noticing them, like look when their start date actually was, because it wasn't.
Yeah,
If it's 2023 now and something just popped off, it's like they probably started in 2015, 2016, 2017, in that time frame. It's not like they started
yeah.
today.
Yeah, and that's I think a lot of people get they don't realize that, or they don't think about that, or maybe they just want, the success quickly. I mean, personally, like my YouTube channels are definitely it's been a grind. I've been doing these channels for a long time, but in the scope of like, even if I would have told myself when I started, like, hey, it's going to take you 5 years to get to this number, but this is like the experience that you're going to have, I would have been like, oh yeah, that's awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
it still doesn't make it any different while you're doing the grind and you're like, man, like, I feel like this should be better than this by now. And it's easy to like go down that route. But I think that, one of those things that I think about is kind of like what you were saying is like, not everybody is the one that like that blows up like Facebook. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
somebody else might be working on their website for 20 years or 15 years, and then all of a sudden it's like one day, poof, you know? So that's the one part of me whenever I consider, like, sometimes things get hard, you know, and it's really
Yeah.
easy to consider like, well, maybe I should just hang it up, you know? And at those aspects, or at those times, I always think like, what if tomorrow is the day that I've been like working towards,
Yeah.
and today is the day that I stop? Like, then, well, I'm screwed. You
Yeah.
know, like it was like everything I wanted could be happening tomorrow. You
Yeah.
know?
And you know, it's like never what you do like today, it's being consistent with it. It's like, you know, so if I put 24 hours in for 8 weeks, like
Mhm.
don't sleep and do anything, that's not what's going to grow. I'm going to get burnt out and not have a good time. um,
Mhm.
what allows me to grow, even if it's a slower growth, like, you know, put in like 1%. Like the book
Mhm.
Atomic Habits talks about that dramatically. Like if you're 1% better every day, in 1 year you're 37 times better than what
Yeah.
you were when you first started.
Yeah.
So it's like enjoying the journey, and know it's a slow grind. Like, you know, people didn't like get to start exactly where they were. Like you had to,
Mhm.
we just didn't know about them. Like it's not like Gretzky picked up a pair of hockey skates and um, scored every goal. Um, you know, he started when he was like 5 or whatever, and just
Yeah.
kept going and got better, and kept at it. And
Yeah.
that's what I enjoy about business is like there are no like, yeah, there's rules of like, you know, don't like do bad things, but like, you know, if someone wants to build a brand that like, you know, every time you buy it, you fly to their house and drop it off personally, you could do that. I don't know
Yeah.
how you like, you know what I mean? Like there's like Simon Sinek said it great is, you know, business is an infinite game. Like there's finite games and infinite games, and finite games is like baseball. It's like, you know, you have 9 innings, you have this many um, like tops and bottoms, and then at the end there's a winner and loser. In business, there is no, it's an, like there is no start and end. It's whoever wants to come in, how long you stay, and then, you know, people leave when they want to or leave when they
Mhm.
don't think they're getting it. But it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
you can do anything in the entrepreneurial world.
Yeah. In your mind, how long do you think it takes you to get to like the point where you're ready to start the next brand?
My projections. So in year one, we'll do about 100. The goal is to do 100K in profit, and do, or like, and then do, you know, a couple 100,000 in sales. Um,
Mhm.
then next, like basically it's like doubling. So then I said next year would be, or like the year after would be like double it. So 750K.
Mhm.
And then third year is like 3 mil,
Mhm.
or up or faster. But it's like, yeah, just have a team. And I don't ever want to like, like, I don't see myself leaving something, especially when, you know, I've built such a emotional tie-ins of
Yeah,
stuff. It's
yeah.
just like,
That's a very personal business.
but I'll continue like, you know, like everyone says, it's who you surround yourself with. So there's people way smarter than me, and there always will be. It's trying to figure out ways to like help them believe in my brand, or, you know, why they should come work at Good Day Optics rather than um, somewhere else. And it's like, well, yeah, like I want to build it together, because like, you know, I don't like, there's, in my mind, there's never a self-made million or self-made entrepreneur. It's always
Mhm.
they had it on the backs of communities and everything. So it's like I would
Mhm.
rather, you know, share and let more people join in and
Mhm.
have that, because it's like, especially with like, you know, it's kind of been like my secret to life that I've learned is it's like, you know, when you give back to someone or help inspire them, you feel good. Um, but then it's weird where what you put in, it's like, and help, you get like 2, 10, 5 times back if you don't expect it. And that's what's like really cool, because let alone you just feeling good about helping someone else. It's like, or like inspiring others or making it better for someone else. It's like you, for some strange reason, the world is like, oh, you did good. Here's something random that's going to come happen to you in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people call it karma or whatever. And like, I definitely feel like that's a thing. And I don't know, maybe I'm too optimistic or something like that. But I feel like if you do good things happen to you. It's funny how that is. Like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just you recognize it more. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Sometimes you wonder with, people that do bad things, but like usually it catches up with them.
Yeah, at some point.
Yeah.
Well,
So, go ahead.
oh, like I think, when someone builds something that has flexibility, or once, like, you don't have to worry about cash as much, you start to realize, like, you can find a bunch of different ways to make money. Like, I can go find a job, or you can go like grind and figure out to do something for someone. But it's like the thing that we should be competing for is time. Like, no matter how much money I have, I can't make more time.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing to learn. The earlier you learn that in your life, I think the more beneficial that it is for you. And I think, like, I shared that story about my uncle when I was younger, and it really helped me just learn to live like that tomorrow could be like the last day. And you really don't know. Like, you can be as healthy as you want, you can be like live inside of a bubble, and like one day, something just goes wrong. You know what I mean? Like, you're taking a shower and you slip and freaking break your neck, like, that's it. It's like the stupidest shit that happens to people, and sometimes, it's something in your control, and sometimes it's not. But I've for a long time in my life always tried to live in the mindset of like, if today was my last day, would I look at my life and be like, I mean, it wasn't everything I wanted, but it was a good run. You know what I mean?
It was a pretty good day.
Yeah. So I definitely, I still feel that way. I mean, yes, I want to live to as old as I can be. Like, that sounds really fun to see, like, the world change and my family get older and whatever, but like, if this was it, you can know that I definitely, like, I'm like, dude, I did a lot of shit that I wanted to do, like, and I had a lot of really good times, and I like got to experience a lot of really cool things with a lot of cool people, and that to me is like so valuable. I don't really give a fuck what color like how big my house is or what car I have or whatever. It's really, to me, about like those experiences that you have in your life.
Well, it's the stories and the friends and everything that make it. Like, we're like, there's a reason why we built cities and why we like came together as a collective, and that allowed humans to thrive. So it's like, we shouldn't be trying to build a $10 million house on top of a mountain, and this, like, it takes time to pick that up. Like, I was the same way when I was like, I think the death has to, or like, the really bad experience has to be close by to you. Like, I had my grandparents passed away when, like, I was super close, like, not super, like, I was super close, but like still when like 10 and 12. But then I still continued down the path of like, I want to make a lot of money. And I did do that for a bit. Like, when I was an engineer, my first year out, I was making like $250K, but I sat in a truck for 16 hours a day in the middle of nowhere, working 24 days on, 4 days off. And it's like, that isn't happiness. Like, and then when I went into my first job outside of my second degree of doing like beer sales, like my salary fit in my engineering salary 8 times. But I had way more fun.
Yeah. I was married before the marriage that I'm in, and when that ended, it was one of those eye-opening moments again for me, where it was like, I think before that, I had this like, the way I always explain it to people is like when you define yourself by your job. And I think I defined myself by my job. Like I wanted to like get a bigger budget at my job and like manage more people and like do a bigger team and like have more responsibility. And then like for whatever reason going through that divorce, it really made me realize that like the job is really only for me to like do the things that I enjoy. Like it's good that you enjoy your job, but like that's not like actually like who I am. Like who I am is the things that I do when I'm not there, you
Yeah.
know. And it just really like 180'd my life, where I was like, I'm riding bikes and I'm like doing these things because that is way more important than like what you were talking about with a business. Like you can go there and spend all night there and leave and there's still something to do. Like it's not like it's
Yeah.
ever done, you know? So
Yeah.
like you should go out there and enjoy the things that like that you're doing and that you're
Well,
doing for fun, you know?
like you said, like you know, and what keeps you going is it's like, you know, yeah, maybe I want to quit today, but tomorrow's the success. It's like sometimes the success never comes, so we need to
Yeah.
enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
And that is the success, right? And like that's the weirdest thing that I kind of learned was like, you know, success is different for everyone, and you need to
Hmm.
figure out like, you know, like yeah, you can't define yourself by your job. You need to look inside yourself and figure out what you enjoy and figure out um, that regard, and then like break it out because like, you know, someone might not be happy unless they get like 1,000% growth every day, and someone
Yeah.
might be happy if they get like one customer a year. Um,
Yeah.
so it's like, but like if that person who like only got one customer a year, if they were more focused on wanting to have that 1,000% growth, well, it's like, well, then you'd always like, you know, it's that comparison mindset. Like if you start comparing yourself to everyone, you can always be unhappy.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Man, we're rounding that 2 hour mark right now. It's been a great conversation, man. We started out just, you know, like I said, you never know what you're going to get into, and it's definitely been a fun one. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat with me and all the bikers out there.
Yeah, and I appreciate you having me. Like it's I've never been on podcasts before, and
Uh-huh.
it's just so much fun because like you can have a great conversation with someone who I don't even know how far away we are.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, I was joking with um, um,
Mark.
Mark from the segment, and I'm like, we need you guys to cut like come up to Canada. We'll do the segment tour and go ride Baseline Mountain because like he was trying to Google search where it was and everything like that. But it's like, you know, it's like you make friends. Like I'm like, yeah, when I'm come down to NorCal, it's like, yeah, I know who I'm going to send a message to because it's like I
Yeah.
would love to continue the conversations and I would love to continue um, like just seeing where
Yeah.
everything goes. Right? Like it's a
Yeah. Yeah. 100%, man. Well, I think that that you have a very like inspiring story of how how you got started and where you're at, and I think that that your business model is I think that it's different, and it's different in a good way, and it's I wish you all the success that you can possibly have. I'm stoked to see, you know, where you are another year from now and what other brands you end up coming up with down the road. I always like to ask people at the end of the show what YouTube channels they like to watch, whether it has anything to do with biking or anything at all. Just because sometimes there's some real winners out there. You never know what's fun. What's fun for you to watch?
so I'm not a it must be like a American versus Canadian thing. Like I have
Hmm.
a few friends who watch YouTube channels up here, but I'm not a big YouTuber.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I like like I've watched the Lone Ranger. I've watched some car ones, Hoonigan, and stuff like that. But trying to figure out more things to watch and more things to listen to.
Yeah, yeah. Do you listen
And
to any podcasts or?
a lot of entrepreneurial podcasts. So like Alex Hermosi, Russell Brunson, Mel Robbins, a lot of like positivity stuff.
Hmm.
And that kind of started when, you know, I was like going through like learning to have lost my mom in such a short time.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, that's when.
So if you like the entrepreneurial ones, there's one that I used to, that's like a pretty, like they don't have a lot of episodes. It's pretty short, but it's called How I Made This.
Oh yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and this guy like interviews like the guy that started Dell, and like, you know, they talk about, you know, being in the garage and getting it going and like how they got to like where they're at.
Yeah.
And they're all like big companies. So it's like, you know, Quiznos, Subs, like how they got started, or, you know, something like that. Trader Joe's, I don't know. And that one's like really, really fun to listen to. So I think you'll enjoy it. Well, anyways.
I hope Trader Joe's comes up to Canada. I always go down there and get all the cool things that they have.
Right on, Jared.
Well, but do you think, I like doing this? I do it at all my events. We usually do like a little like promo or whatever. Why don't we run a promo, like 15% off? So like whether it's like biker 15 or something like that. What do you like? Do you think it would go over well with your like community?
Yeah. I mean, I could post something like that on my Instagram or something like that. So I guess we're just saying that here, and then B1KER 15.
Yeah, and then it can run for a couple days if anyone is interested in hopping on immediately.
Yeah. However long you want to let it last. I would imagine that you could probably let it run for a while. It's not going to be like you're going to get bombarded with a billion orders. So
cool.
But I would imagine that, yeah, you definitely get somebody to come by. So
yeah,
B1KER 15. That's what it is.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Definitely. I'll throw something together for Instagram and stuff like that as well. So if you guys haven't already gone by and or written down the website, or however you figure you want to go figure out what these guys are up to, you can look at gooddayoptics.com. So GOODDAYOPTICS.com. He's got a Facebook, he's got a Twitter, a TikTok, and Instagram. So you can go check all those out there either as well. That's what I'm trying to say. Let's spit this out. And if you're on Instagram, you haven't given me a follow, then give me one too. That'd be awesome. I'd really appreciate that. All of you guys out there on Patreon, thanks again. I really appreciate it. It's you guys that are out there that really keep this thing going. I mean that, like, with everything inside of me. I really appreciate all of you out there. And if you want something just purely for free, no strings attached, just remember, it only takes a bike to be a biker. Get out and be one.